Folks, the real estate game is constantly changing. And of course, real estate agents, realtors have to keep up on what's happening, what's new. That said, honestly speaking, buyers and sellers should know what's happening, what's new in the real estate business, how things are working. And that's why we've done this video here. What's new in the real estate? How do buyers go about searching for homes, making offers? What's involved? What's most important? So check out this video. We're going to be talking about that right now. Also, at the end of this video, I'm going to be telling you how you can get a really important report on 7 mistakes first-time home buyers make. That actually applies to everyone. And this video is going to really apply to any buyer that's considering buying a home here in the Triangle area. Folks, my name is Armand with Team Armand EXP Realty. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel to be the first to receive news about what's happening in the Triangle real estate market. Okay, folks, let me introduce you to one of my favorite people. This is Michelle Lytle-Westrom. Michelle is one of my team partners at Team Armand at EXP Realty. She's one of my favorite people and one of the best agents in the Triangle area. Michelle, how are you doing?
Thank you. Hi, how are you, Armand?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. So we're going to talk today about the latest and greatest about what's happening with buyers, what they need to know about the home buying process here in the Triangle area. And you're very familiar with that because you've been in the business so long, have closed so many buyers. It's been a pleasure working with you. And let's continue, okay?
Yeah, it sounds like a good plan.
Okay, all right. So the first thing that the home buyers need to know, the first thing they need to start with is they need to find a good lender. Right, Michelle?
That's correct. It's very important to meet with a lender so you know what your buying power is. The worst thing you can do is go find a house and fall in love with that house and then go to your lender and say, I love this house. I have to have this house, but it is not in your budget. So it's important to know what your budget is so we can go spend your time wisely and find the right house that doesn't stretch your budget too much. It's just what you need.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of options out there.
A lot of options. You mean a lot of options in terms of houses to buy or?
Houses to buy. It's fewer than what we would like right now, but I believe that it's going to get better as the spring market heats up.
Exactly right. So, Michelle, how should a buyer choose their lender?
Well, we have the names of several lenders. I think for me, the best thing is to make sure that the lender is responsive, and it's not a bad idea to shop lenders and see who will give you the best rate. They will, some lenders can offer certain programs that may suit your needs.
Right. And we've also said, it's not always about rate. As you just said, are they responsive? So it's also,
that's very important.
Can they really are they listening to you as a home buyer? Do they really understand your needs? And one of the things we always say is when considering lenders, honestly, choose somebody local. Somebody here in the Triangle area, in Chapel Hill, in Durham, wherever you're searching for a home, who really knows the market, knows the rules and regulations about how lending is actually done here in North Carolina.
Correct.
Don't choose somebody out of state, and God knows wherever. A couple of other rules for choosing lenders that we usually have is probably don't use, say, really big banks. They're usually pretty unresponsive. I won't name any banks right now, Wells Fargo.
Well, and also it's important to close on time. And I have found generally that your local lenders almost always hit that target date, and big banks have so much red tape. They have trouble sometimes hitting your closing date.
Exactly right. Another thing we recommend to not do is get one of those online lenders. I'm not going to mention any names, Rapid Mortgage. But honestly, it's the same situation with they rarely actually hit their closing dates because there's no repercussions if they don't close on time. They're like way out of town. Nobody knows where they are. You can't storm into their office locally like you would with somebody local and say, hey, why aren't we closing on time? There's no repercussions if they don't close on time. Right?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. And finally, in terms of getting a lender, starting with a lender, how important is it to get a pre-approval letter, Michelle?
It's really important because, again, back to what I said earlier, it helps you to know what you can easily afford. And in some cases, in some price points, they will not let you go in and see the house without your agent submitting your pre-approval letter. They don't want anybody just coming in that may not be able to afford the house. So in some cases, you can't even get in the house without one.
Exactly right. Second thing, number 2 on our list here is what we call agency. Agency is actually just choosing your agent. Who's going
That's
to
right.
represent you in this deal? And the first thing we always like to say, like to remind our home buyers, is there's a huge difference between a buyer agent and a listing agent. Right, Michelle?
That's right. So when you are looking to buy a house, you want your own agent. You want somebody that works for you and is your fiduciary. So in North Carolina, we have a disclosure called Working with Real Estate Agents that lays this out for you. It talks about how, as a buyer's agent, my loyalty is to the buyer, my client. And anything we talk about stays between us. I do not share it.
Confidentiality.
It is confidential, but the other side of that is the listing agent has a loyalty to the seller, which is appropriate and very good. But if you go to an open house and the listing agent is hosting that open house and you say, oh, I love this house, I have to have it. I have $500,000 cash in the bank and I'll pay whatever it takes. You've just let the seller know that
Yep.
you are desperate for that house and they can really use that in the negotiation. So you need to make sure you know who the agent is representing and have your own agent representing you in that transaction just to protect you.
Yeah, to protect your best interest as a home buyer.
Right.
How do you choose a good buyer agent, Michelle? How is it?
Well, I think that's I think a lot of it has to do with word of mouth, reputation,
Exactly, referrals.
responsiveness,
Mhm.
um, and somebody that really knows the area. Like we work in an area that we know. I don't go out in areas that I don't know so that I can tell my clients, because I'll get specific questions, what is the local bank that's near here? Was there a synagogue nearby? Where's the local Catholic church? What kind of Italian restaurants are nearby? Things like that. And if you know the area, you can help your client get a better feel for that. Also, you kind of know where the hidden gems are. So you can work and show your clients a larger area.
Absolutely. And an experienced agent also knows what's happening in terms of development, commercial, industrial, or
Exactly.
residential, and to give people a heads up about that. You mentioned experience. One of the things we don't recommend is going with somebody who's brand new in the business. They just don't know what the pitfalls are yet. They haven't had the experience. They haven't had the negative experience of a deal go sour because somebody didn't do something or somebody forgot to do something. Good experienced agents like yourselves have been through the wars.
Well, even now, with all these years, there are still things that are new that happen. So, I mean, that is how complex real estate is. No two transactions are the same.
Yep.
They can be similar, but like I had, for example, we talked about this earlier. I had a client who it appeared that the driveway was in their yard, and I always recommend a survey, which we'll get to later.
Survey, yes.
And the driveway was half in the neighbor's yard, and you would have never known that. And there's, dealing with things like that, having the experience and knowing how to deal with things, and also being willing to go to bat for your client, because there's negotiations, there's repairs, and you need to know how to best negotiate those repairs to get the best deal for your client.
One more negative I'll say, one more do not do for choosing your buyer agent is don't go with a family member. That may seem like a really nice thing to do for your family member, but these deals are highly stressful. And sometimes family members, they may not want to address a negative with you as a client because they don't want to ruffle the family dynamic, whatever. They may not do as great a job for someone if they're a family member, or they may just not have the experience that's really needed. Okay, number 3 on our list of things to expect and to watch out for as a home buyer is the actual home search itself.
Right.
Michelle, how do you advise home buyers start their home search?
Well, I advise them to start as broad as possible, because I will say this to every one of my clients. the MLS is only as good as the listing agent. So
Mhm.
quite often the listing agent, they aren't all like you,
Let's
Armand.
not
They
even
aren't as
start the
thorough as you are.
discussion about bad listing agents here, Michelle, to be honest
But
with you. Yeah,
it matters. The
it
thoroughness
matters.
matters.
Yes, it matters. It really does matter.
And so a lot of my clients, for example, want a primary bedroom on the first floor, and I will put that in the search, but I can't tell you how many times I'm also doing little side searches on my own because it may not pop up that it has a primary bedroom on the main floor. They just don't put it in the MLS, so that one would have slid under the radar.
Yeah.
So you want to keep it as broad as possible. The primary bedroom is an important one to put on there, though. I just double check to make sure that certain homes may have them anyway. But things such as a fence in the backyard, that may not be there. Open kitchen, there's not something to document for that. So what I tell them is keep it as broad as possible. And then when I send you options, if it doesn't work, that's fine. Just ignore it and move on to the next one. But if it does work, then the next part of that, which I find to be very important, is that I will then send my clients the property disclosures, because the property disclosures have little gems of information that may help my client decide if that really is the right house before they even go and see it. Because you have material facts that you have to disclose. And if the seller knows of these facts, flooding in the backyard, water issues, previous damage that's been repaired, for some of my clients, that may be a deal breaker. So it's helpful. I'll send that to them so that they can review them.
Another thing that we frequently talk to our buyers about is the difference between searching on the big national websites like Zillow, Realtor.com, Redfin, and whatnot, versus searching at an individual agent's website, like our website, teamarmand.com. The difference is that teamarmand.com is connected directly to our MLS system. There's an electronic system that everything that happens in the MLS is transferred directly to our personal website. Whereas Zillow and Realtor.com, there's another step involved there. From the MLS, it goes to what we call an aggregator. And from there, it feeds out to all these national and international level websites. And not all that information is transferred correctly. And Zillow and Realtor.com their systems are not as great as we would like them to be. So a lot of the information that is at Zillow and Realtor.com is incorrect. Whereas if we go to our website, it is correct, frankly.
Right, that's correct. It doesn't update in real time. And I can't tell you how many times a client has reached out to me and said, I saw this house on Realtor.com and you didn't send it to me and I think it's perfect. And I'll look it up and I'll say, well, that's because it's under contract and it just hasn't updated on
Closed last
Realtor.com.
year and they just haven't taken it off yet.
Yeah.
Another final tip here for your home search is to drive the neighborhood. If you see a home online or through your agent's search, you think you might be interested, really the first step is go ahead and drive out there yourselves and check the neighborhood out. You just never know what you might see that may influence your decision positively or negatively. And in fact, be driving neighborhoods in general and get a feel for the particular town that you hope to be living in, right?
Yeah, no, that's really important. I've had many clients that have gone through the neighborhood and then realized in some section of it, they're high tension power lines. And for them, that was a total deal breaker. So that was it. And then I had another client that came into town this weekend and I met with them and they are from Virginia, but they're coming down here. And after we looked at some things, I sent them based on what they were looking for to go look at some other areas. And they just spent the rest of the day driving around getting a good feel. And he called me the next day and said, okay, now we have a better feel for what we want. And here's some of our criteria.
Exactly right. Okay, let's say you've driven around, you see it at home with Michelle and you love this house, you want to make an offer. Well, in that case, this is the next thing we want to review with you. The fourth thing is making the offer itself. And one of the things we always say to our potential home buyers is there are really 5 major elements of an offer, and I'll run them down real quickly. The first 2 elements are 2 dates to consider, which is your closing date and the end of your due diligence period. The second 2 elements are 2 checks, which is an earnest money deposit and a due diligence fee check, which we'll talk about a little bit more in depth in just a second. And then the third and final element is the actual purchase price. And one of the things we always recommend to our home buyers is don't focus fully on the purchase price, because these other 4 previous elements, the 2 dates and the 2 checks, influence how the home seller views your purchase price. So all
Right.
those big elements work together. Is there anything else that, Michelle, that buyers should be concerned about or look out for in terms of making an offer?